Good evening, I'm Michael and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. Dewan Rakyat is the best place to ensure political stability, but how will that be achieved? According to Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, it can be achieved through a motion of confidence.
Umno President Ahmad Zahid Hamidi wants the government to table a motion of confidence to be debated in the Dewan Rakyat. Zahid said this after making remarks about the need for sincerity in political cooperation during his Budget 2021 debate.
Dewan Yang Mulia ini merupakan pentas terbaik untuk negara ini berada dalam situasi politik yang stabil. Sama ada terdapat usul undi percaya atau sebaliknya, ianya hendaklah diuji di Dewan Yang Mulia ini. Jika ini tidak dapat dilakukan kerana kekangan peraturan mesyuarat, sesuatu mesti dipersesuaikan dengan urusan kerajaan mesti diutamakan. Biarlah kerajaan sendiri yang menjadikannya sebagai urusan kerajaan diutamakan, iaitu menjadikan usul undi percaya dibawa ke Dewan Yang Mulia ini.
Zahid also called for the government's mandate to be returned to the people as soon as possible. He said, the people's voice is important and the government gets power from the people, so should return to them for a mandate. He added that MPs must also reject any proposal for a nationwide proclamation of emergency.
Proklamasi darurat adalah bukan pilihan. Malah Kebawah Duli Yang Maha Mulia, Yang Ketua Agung dan Majlis Hari Raja telah pun menolaknya. Apatah lagi percubaan untuk mencadangkan proklamasi darurat seluruh negara dalam apa bentuk sekalipun wajib ditolak oleh ahli Dewan Yang Mulia ini. Namun rakyat menerima proklamasi darurat setempat seperti yang telah diumumkan untuk Batu Sapi. Kita memahami sesuatu itu.
The government is getting closer to signing the COVAX scheme, but before that, Malaysia will need to fork out millions of ringgit upfront.
Malaysia could have access to a supply of COVID-19 vaccine for 10% of the population through its participation in the COVAX facility. This is according to Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Khairi Jamaluddin. Khairi said this during the minister's question time in the Dewan Rakyat today, in response to Bagan MP Lim Guan Eng, who had asked if Malaysia's participation in COVAX is supported by the World Health Organization and the cost involved.
Jemaah Menteri pada 14 Oktober 2020 telah bersetuju agar Malaysia menyertai fasiliti COVAX yang bakal memberi jaminan bekalan vaksin untuk 10% populasi Malaysia.
He added that the Cabinet had agreed that the Health Ministry would represent the government to finalise Malaysia's agreement for participation in COVAX, and the Attorneys General's Chambers would review the terms and conditions of the agreement set by the Global Alliance for Vaccine and Immunisation, or gov't.
Jemaah Menteri telah memutuskan pada 13 November supaya Malaysia melalui Kementerian Kesihatan memuktamadkan penyertaan dalam COVAX facility dengan menandatangani perjanjian Optional Purchase Agreement. Buat masa ini, Kementerian Kesihatan dan pihak gov't sedang memuktamadkan tarikh bagi menandatangani perjanjian tersebut. Keputusan untuk Malaysia menyertai fasiliti ini akan melibatkan kos yang merangkumi bayaran pendahuluan upfront payment dan risk sharing guarantee berjumlah 22.6 juta US dollar atau secara anggarannya 94 juta ringgit Malaysia. Jaminan akses awal bekalan vaksin COVID-19 adalah penting untuk melindungi rakyat Malaysia daripada penularan wabak COVID-19 dan selanjutnya membantu merancakkan ekonomi negara apabila vaksinasi dijadikan syarat untuk pergerakan dan perhubungan di peringkat global.
Anwar Musa has reached out to his lawyers to address an allegation made by DAP lawmaker Tan Kok Wai yesterday regarding the alleged sale of land by DBKL. Anwar Musa has denied an allegation that 42 plots of DBKL land have been sold since he was appointed Federal Territories Minister. In a press conference this morning, Anwar said Cheras MP Tan Kok Wai was mistaken as the plots were owned by private landowners who had applied to DBKL to change land use rules.
Saya ingin menegaskan di sini, sehingga ke hari ini dan saat ini, tidak ada satu pun permohonan daripada bandaraya yang sampai kepada saya memohon untuk menjual mana-mana aset dimiliki oleh Dewan Bandaraya. Saya ulang, sehingga kepada saat hari ini, saya tidak pernah menerima apa-apa permohonan daripada bandaraya untuk menjual mana-mana aset mereka.
Anwar said due to the serious nature of the allegation, he will be pursuing legal action against the DAP lawmaker.
Saya telah mengarahkan kepada peguam saya untuk mengambil tindakan undang-undang terhadap beliau mengikut jalur dan proses yang sedia ada. Kerana saya memandang serius terhadap tuduhan yang seperti ini dan saya mengulangi sekali lagi, sepanjang saya menjadi Menteri Wilayah Persekutuan, saya tidak pernah lagi menerima sebarang permohonan daripada bandaraya untuk menjual mana-mana aset mereka.
Yesterday, Tan had based his allegation against Anwar on how DBKL had published 3 notices to alter the existing Kuala Lumpur City Plan 2020 in recent months. He said the latest notice indicated changes for 33 plots of DBKL-owned land, while the earlier 2 notices indicated changes to 3 and 6 plots respectively. There have been claims that a few BN and PN MPs will not support the budget. However, those claims aren't true, according to Shahidan Kasim.
Arau MP Shahidan Kasim said that anyone who rejects Budget 2021 will be betraying the trust of the people. During his speech on the debate of Budget 2021 in the Dewan Rakyat today, Shahidan, who is also the Perikatan National Backbenchers Club chairperson, said that many were waiting for the budget to be passed.
Sesiapa saja yang menolak bajet ini, termasuk kawan saya bekas Menteri Kesihatan, tolak bajet kianat rakyat. Sebab ini rakyat sedang menunggu, anggota kerajaan menunggu supaya bajet ini diluluskan. Mereka yang dibuang kerja menunggu untuk mereka diambil semula. Kita tolak bajet, kita menghina mereka, kita kianat mereka.
Shahidan also clarified that rumours of 1 or 2 MPs from PN and BN not supporting the budget, which will lead to the fall of the government, were false. He said Perikatan Nasional and BN fully supported the budget and stated his undivided support for the leadership of Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin. Last week, Najib, who is also the BN backbencher chairperson, had said in his budget speech that BN would only support the budget if the government agreed to extend the loan moratorium and allow withdrawals of 10,000 ringgit from the Employees Provident Fund.
A few states, namely Pahang, Terengganu, Perlis and the Federal Territory of Putrajaya, managed to report 0 cases today. However, the number of COVID-19 patients currently in ICU is at a record level. Malaysia reported 1,290 new COVID-19 cases today, with Sabah recording the highest number of new cases with 660, followed by Selangor with 407 new cases. The number of new cases reported today have catapulted the number of active cases to 13,222. This is despite the Health Ministry reporting 878 recoveries today. The death toll linked to COVID-19 also grew today with 4 new cases. The ministry also reported that 110 COVID-19 patients are in the intensive care, exceeding the previous record of 108 set on April 3rd. However, the number of patients requiring breathing aid dropped by 4 to 37 patients. Coming up next, a COVID-19 vaccine could be available in the US and Europe by as early as next month. Vaccine maker BioNTech has some good news for those in the US and Europe.
BioNTech CEO Ugur Sahin said in an interview with Reuters on Wednesday that doses of the drug maker's promising coronavirus vaccine could be made available next month, pending regulatory approval from the US Food and Drug Administration.
If everything goes well, we could start to supply the vaccines to Europe and United States in the second half of December. And you can see that, of course, as a Christmas present, but it is of course most important to address all the questions and to good.
Sahin said US emergency use authorization would be applied for on Friday. An FDA advisory committee tentatively plans to meet on December 8 to 10 to discuss the vaccine, a source familiar with the situation said, though the dates could change. Pfizer and BioNTech said on Wednesday that final trial results of their vaccine showed it had a 95% success rate and no serious side effects. The vaccine's effectiveness was found to be consistent across different ages and ethnicities.
We have more than 94% efficacy even in subjects older than 65 years of age. And this is, of course, an important finding because this population, this elderly population, has a particularly higher risk for severe COVID-19 disease.
Pfizer said it expects to make as many as 50 million vaccine doses this year, enough to protect 25 million people, and then produce up to 1.3 billion doses in 2021.
Thousands of protesters in Germany rallied against a new COVID-19 legislation on Wednesday.
German police unleashed water cannon and pepper spray in an effort to scatter thousands of protesters angry about a new legal framework for enforcing coronavirus restrictions passed by Parliament on Wednesday. Protesters in Berlin threw bottles at police and set off smoke bombs, witnesses reported. Riot police detained some protesters while firing volleys of water and urging crowds by loudspeaker to disperse. Police said that they had detained 190 people and 9 officers were injured. Demonstrators, including some far-right radicals, opposed legislation to enshrine in law powers to impose steps such as curbs on social contact, rules on mask wearing, drinking alcohol in public, and shutting shops. The aim of the amendment, drawn up by German Chancellor Angela Merkel's government, is to prevent legal challenges to the measures that have so far mostly been enforceable at the state or local level, although most Germans accept the latest lockdown light to curb the spread of the novel coronavirus in a second wave. Critics say the amendment endangers citizens' civil rights. The far-right Alternative for Germany had compared the amendment with the 1933 Enabling Act that paved the way to Hitler's Nazi dictatorship. Protesters who were whistling and banging saucepans were neither keeping the required social distance nor wearing face masks. Some held banners with slogans such as "Stop the Corona Pandemic Lie" and "No to Forced Vaccinations." Europe's largest economy has kept infection and death rates below those of many of its neighbors during the first phase of the crisis. But now, it is facing the second wave in Europe.
Thousands were forced to flee their homes as Storm Iota unleashed torrential floods in Central America.
Storm Iota unleashed devastating flooding in areas already waterlogged with rain on Wednesday, forcing hundreds of thousands of people across Central America to flee their homes as scenes of destruction dotted the already impoverished region. Authorities confirmed more than 24 dead by Wednesday evening, and the death toll is expected to keep rising as rescuers reach more isolated communities and more damage is documented. Bringing winds of nearly 155 miles per hour, Iota struck the coast late on Monday, overwhelming villages still reeling from the impact of Hurricane Eta 2 weeks ago. Iota, which hit as a Category 4, was the strongest storm on record ever to hit Nicaragua. While Iota has largely dissipated over El Salvador on Wednesday, authorities across Nicaragua and Honduras were still battling to cope with the fallout from days of heavy rainfall. Nicaraguan media said a landslide had killed at least 15 people in the north of the country. Many more were still missing and feared lost, according to the reports. Some 160,000 Nicaraguans and 70,000 Hondurans have been forced to flee to shelters. The U.S. National Hurricane Center said the storm's remnants could trigger life-threatening flash flooding, river flooding, and mudslides across parts of Central America through Thursday.
And that is all for me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. We'll be back with more tomorrow, same time, same place. Michael, thank you for watching.